Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Hello and welcome to Getting to Know You. I'm your host, Robert Jaquay. What's it like to be a town justice in the town of Colonie? And what is the court system like in Colonie? On today's show, my guest is the Honorable Peter Crummey. We're going to talk to him and find out. Peter, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Now, before we start talking about the justice in the town of Colonie, in your position as a justice, I'd like to give our viewers a bit of your background, as much as you'd like to share with us.
Well, thank you, Bob. As you know, I live in the town of Colonie. I was born and raised here in Colonie and graduated from Shaker High School, Boston College, Albany Law School of Union University. And while I was at Albany Law School, I started interning with the town attorney's office at Town Hall. From there, upon graduation from the law school, the Fred Field and the town board asked me if I would consider serving as an assistant town attorney, which I was very happy to do and serve for one of the mentors in my public life, Fred Field, and continue there until full-time until the mid-'80s when I opened up my own law office and was asked by the town board to serve our zoning board as its counsel, which I did for 13 years in that way. And all the while, of course, enjoying a family of 5 children and that keep my wife and I very busy and still do, and it's really the very special part of our life as well. After the and during the time I was serving our town as the zoning board counsel, I also was elected by town residents to serve in the county legislature representing their neighborhoods, and I did that for 8 years until I was asked by the town residents to serve as town justice 8 years ago.
You're certainly familiar with the town. I mean, you've been here a long time. We've known each other quite a while as well.
Yes, that's right.
Now, it's an elected official as a justice. And, I was doing the research here, and I was writing the word justice, several times. I say, what's the difference between a justice and a judge?
Well, the both titles are synonymous. And so that routinely, while the position on the ballot is called town justice, the fact of the matter is that routinely the word judge is used interchangeably, and it's totally appropriate to do so.
Now, when you talk about town justice, and it's the department, the justice department in the town, is this what entity is this? I mean, we have all types of courts and justice systems. I mean.
That's correct, and the town justice system was really created by the framers of our state constitution, and it continues today. And of course, the Colonie Justice Court is one of the busiest in the state of New York. In fact, by the number of cases, I think last year we were number 3 in the state of New York in volume, which just underscores the type of activity that we have over in our justice court, which often is a surprise to many of our town residents that there's so many court proceedings going on here in the town of Colonie. But my position is that for the same reasons that Colonie grew to 80,000 plus in population, also for those reasons being the crossroads of the capital region has also brought a lot of activity into our court system, and not just criminal court cases, but also civil court cases as well. We have a very general jurisdiction at the town level, and while certain cases are limited to the amount of money that we can entertain in a civil matter, routinely a variety of civil cases and small claims matters and criminal matters are brought to the courthouse every week. And we have 4 court sessions a week where we'll do Monday evenings, Tuesdays, Wednesday evenings, Thursdays, and then also when you're on duty as a town justice, you are on call 24/7. And just last week alone, I was out 18 times to the Justice Court on criminal matters, primarily for arraignments, whether it's 11 o'clock at night, 3 in the morning, 6 in the morning, all different times. These are times coming to court outside of our court sessions.
So something happens, you get a call, and there you have to be there.
Absolutely. Yep, 24/7, and that can be very demanding by the end of your duty week to have having to serve in that capacity as well.
I'm going to use terms as I understand them, but correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of jurisdiction, are you deal with the geographical boundaries of the town of Colonie? Is that all that you deal with?
I think that's a fair generalization, that the matters that I will preside over are typically matters, criminal matters, for instance, where the alleged crime occurred in Colonie, or a civil matter or a landlord-tenant matter involving property in the town of Colonie, or a defendant lives in the town of Colonie, a civil defendant. But there are times, though, when I've been called to serve in a variety of capacities outside, for actions outside of the town of Colonie, including, for instance, if there's a warrant that has been issued by a non-adjoining county, and that particular subject of the warrant has been located in Colonie, I still have to come in and execute, endorse that warrant to allow police agencies from non-adjoining counties to come into our county to collect the defendant who's the subject of that warrant. So you do get involved in criminal activity and criminal cases that didn't necessarily start in Colonie. And another time I was contacted by the federal prosecutor's office to see whether I would be available to arraign a subject that they were bringing in from Germany. Apparently the federal prosecutors had been following a particular defendant throughout Europe for a number of years, hoping that he would land in a country where the United States had reciprocal agreements with. And apparently this particular defendant did happen to land in Frankfurt, and before he was able to get on his other plane, they arrested him there and brought him back to Albany, New York at 10:30 at night, and asked me, under special federal law and powers, to actually arraign the gentleman, which I did, and then I bound him over to be held, presented before the federal magistrate on Monday afternoon. But you do see things that do occur outside of Colonie.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, maybe this is obvious, but the village of Colonie doesn't have a separate court. It's all incorporated in the whole town of Colonie.
That's correct. The village of Colonie does not enjoy its own court system, and however, the village of Menands does.
Okay.
And I served as a prosecutor there for 18 years before I became a judge as well. The village of Menands still maintains its own village justice court system.
Now, how does one become a judge? I mean, I know it's unelected, but what do you need to have, as far as training to become a judge?
Well, the town justice, according to the rules and laws of the state of New York, it does not have to be a practicing attorney. It does not have to be an attorney at all. And there are a variety of courts in and around the state which are served by justices who do not have a Juris Doctor or are not attorneys at all. In fact, in the justice court system, there are probably more judges that aren't trained as attorneys than are. Of course, in Colonie, we do have 3 judges serving our entire town, and they're all attorneys as well. And to me, with the volume that we have, as you may know, we will face approximately 24,000 cases a year.
That's huge.
Enter into the Colonie court system, and I think significant background and training, including training as an attorney, is certainly a great asset, but it is not a legal requirement.
Okay, but it's definitely an advantage, absolutely.
It has been for me.
Because obviously you're called upon for knowledge of the law, and you have to know exactly what you're dealing with.
Day and night.
Cliff notes by there, but anyway, yes, absolutely. Now, the whole court system. I just want to just step back a little bit because you mentioned New York State. There's a whole court structure throughout the state. I mean, it's pretty complex. And as you go through the chart here, we get the town and villages, and it's under the New York State Unified Court System.
That's correct.
Do you belong? Is this a large organization that you belong to that sort of has? What does it do?
Well, it's interesting. Certainly, the highest court in the state is the Court of Appeals, and the courts with the smallest jurisdiction are the town and village justice courts, which I often like to look at as the people's court, because when you come into the courthouse that the citizens have allowed me to preside in, you will find a variety of people, many without attorneys, and who are there either pursuing their own civil matter or responding to a vehicle and traffic violation. And you actually do get to see the residents of the capital region there in your courthouse. As you move up the ladder into the state system and up to the Court of Appeals, you might find that actually you see fewer of the citizens and maybe more of the attorneys only in that way. So I think it's a fantastic exposure to the citizenry of the entire area by being able to preside in that way. The town court is owned and operated and paid for by the town of Colonie. However, city courts, county courts, and the other state courts, statewide courts, are in whole or in part paid for by the state of New York.
Okay.
In that, for instance, city courts and county courts, the arrangement that was made by the state legislature back in the late 70s was that the state would take over the payroll end of their operation, but that the cities and or counties would have to provide the buildings for the courthouses. And that's still the rule today. But as far as receiving significant state aid to run the town justice court, not at all. We are not a state-paid court.
Okay. Now, there is a relationship with the county, isn't there, at some level? Am I right with that? I mean, I'm thinking public defender.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Certainly the county taxpayer has the obligation of providing not only for the district attorney's office, but also for the public defender's office. And routinely, both offices are staffed in the courthouse here in Colonie, and they're very integral parts of the process of justice. Included in that, of course, are other private defense counsel and other ancillary groups that are also represented, whether it's victims' rights groups are routinely represented as well. Honor Court is represented. Youth Court has a place as well as an outlet for the justice system as well. So there are a variety of other avenues that the court benefits from that can help bring justice to the citizens.
Now, all that 24,000 cases, right?
That's correct.
What's the most common?
In Colonie, I would say the most common is the uniform traffic ticket, and that probably generates the most individual or the highest individual case that's brought into the court system. Some of those cases are handled through the mail because many of them are authorized to be handled through the mail. Some of them do require appearances, and we have a tremendous amount of vehicle and traffic activity there. Sometimes the vehicle and traffic stop results in other alleged criminal activity, either because of who's in the vehicle at the time, or possibly there's a warrant for the driver's arrest flowing from another court for something else other than merely a uniform traffic ticket on a violation, which actually brings more serious charges as a result of a vehicle and traffic stop.
As an observer, mind you, I've been at court, when there has been, you've been having in session, and a huge number of people.
That's correct.
And what a volume. I mean, how do you accomplish that in one evening? I mean, it seems like it would be hours.
Well, it all depends on a variety of factors, but I now in my 8th year, any position that you start will take some time to adjust. And I practiced law for nearly 20 years before the town residents elected me to serve as a judge for them. And even 20 years of practice as a prosecutor, as a zoning board attorney, in a variety of areas of debate and deliberation in the county legislature. Still, the first day that you're out there serving in that capacity, there's much to learn. And you know what I enjoy about the position still, Bob, is that I'm still learning a variety of things, and we continue to learn. And of course, it's not a stagnant body of law. The state legislature, year in and year out, continues to modify and amend various statutes, and the court system makes recommendations to its courts about how things should be handled. So continually, we have to be up to date on the current law, the current amendments, and the changes that continually come down from the court system as well as to how to run the court and how to handle particular matters. As judges too, even as town judges, we are required to attend continuing education courses, and we do that currently twice a year at a minimum, full day courses. I just took a course last Saturday at Albany Law School, and you're there from 9 to 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're exposed to 6 or 7 topics that the court system has decided are very important right now for town and village justices to know. So that happens twice a year, spring and fall classes that we are exposed to new changes, new updates, and new requirements. And it keeps things moving, it keeps things exciting, and with time in and experience and exposure, you are able to handle the docket, but it continues to grow. It does continue to grow, and that for whatever reason, not just the criminal side, the civil side grows too. As a result, many people are seeking asking the court to solve the issue for them. So the courts routinely have ever-growing dockets as well. Even at our level, I think it's growing geometrically, especially at the town level with both the criminal and the civil cases and the vehicle and traffic cases that continue to enter into the court system.
Civil cases. Now, are small claims civil cases? I mean, is it the same thing, or is there a distinction?
It is a civil case, but there are two parts to a town justice's civil jurisdiction, and one is what we often refer to as a general civil jurisdiction, where a action can be brought seeking up to $3,000. And that process is slightly more complicated, but still available, than the small claims process, which is also available in the town justice system. And those cases can be brought and are designed to be brought by the state legislature by non-attorneys, that they can pursue a claim by filing a petition with the court system, and they can come to the court, fill out the form, and if they provide the necessary information, they will be given a court date to process their small claims case. Those too are limited by $3,000 as well. There are other types of civil jurisdiction that the court enjoys, including handling a general jurisdiction over all landlord-tenant matters, regardless of monetary amount. So you can imagine all the landlord-tenant relationships that we enjoy in this town, not only between residential landlord-tenant relationships, but also the variety of commercial landlord-tenant relationships, which can result in allegations that one party owes the other $100,000 or $200,000 in back rent. And that is still the subject of the jurisdiction of the town court if it is a landlord-tenant matter.
I mean, I'm hearing, is it usually about money? I mean, these issues are usually about money. It's not...
Typically, the civil matters are about money, people seeking monetary redress or damages. However, in landlord-tenant matters, it's not always about money. Sometimes it's just merely about eviction.
Yeah.
Landlord, for instance, just wants tenant out. Well, of course, the law provides requirements for whether that can be done and how it can be done. But an eviction, some landlords are seeking merely an eviction and not seeking any money. But so there are some forms of relief that don't equate to money.
Okay. Coming back to the times you have the courts in session, is that considered a trial when you go before the justice? Is that considered a trial, or is it trial only when you go in front of a jury, a judge?
Well, that's another great question, Bob, about the justice system. There are a variety of different types of appearances that you may have in the court. And in a criminal proceeding, for instance, typically your first appearance would be an arraignment, where it's the court's obligation to read the charges pending against the defendant and oftentimes advising them of all of their rights. And in many cases, the defendant is released on their own recognizance to reappear with counsel at a later date. There are some arraignments, though, where felonies are alleged, where routinely the court will have to remand that particular defendant directly to the correctional facility pending a preliminary hearing and other rights that are afforded to the defendant at that time. That's all at arraignment, but that wouldn't be a trial. Everybody is entitled to a trial, especially in a criminal case, and that a trial can be before a judge, or certain cases, jury trials are available.
Okay.
Not all types of cases in the criminal justice system are entitled to a jury trial, but generally all misdemeanor and felony allegations enjoy the right to a jury trial. Violations, and a common violation is disorderly conduct. That's a violation. Not entitled to a jury trial, certainly entitled to counsel, but not a jury trial. And that trial can be presided over by a judge only, where the judge rules on the law and on the facts. In a jury trial, the judge still routinely rules on the law, but the jury will be the trier of the facts. And we do have jury trials in Colony Justice Court and bench trials, or in other words, a trial presided over only by a judge.
Now, I know I've gotten notices for the county, to serve as a juror. Is that kind of thing happen in Colonie, where you'd actually go out and seek a base of jurors?
Absolutely. Now, the Commissioner of Jurors of Albany County is responsible for gathering jurors not only for county court level cases, but also for town and village courts as well. And routinely, every Monday night in Colonie Town Justice Court, we have a jury trial scheduled.
Okay.
In fact, just past Monday, I had a jury trial scheduled before me, and the jurors did assemble. And in that particular matter, the trial did not go forward because the defendant did not appear, and his attorney was unable to ascertain the defendant's whereabouts. But the jurors were there, signed in, and ready to be considered as jurors. So that it happens routinely. Sometimes, though, jury trials are called off in advance of the Monday nights, and the jurors are notified that they do not have to appear. But just this past Monday night, I had no less than 30 potential jurors come into the courthouse.
Okay, and it could just go through the same process you would be if you were, like I've been on a trial in a trial on a jury in the county. So you'd go through the same process of selecting jurors and all that?
That's right.
You have 30 people? Yep.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes. And the attorneys get to, one at a time, they voir dire each potential juror to see whether they have any objections to any particular juror. And until we can actually sit 6, plus typically an alternate.
Okay.
And then once once that jury is impaneled, the jury trial commences. But it takes time. It's very time consuming, and it couldn't work without the citizens coming forward, responding to the notice sent out by the county to report as a potential juror. And the system doesn't work without the citizens making themselves available in that way. And considering the long day that citizens have had with their family and their employment, and then to be with us in the early evening hours too, making themselves available in that way. I think that we can all thank all those people for making themselves available to make sure that the criminal justice system works the way it's supposed to work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, people go there because they've gotten a summons or there's a reason for them to appear, but it's not a private matter, is it? The court is open to the public.
That's correct. And even when I am there at 3 in the morning on an arraignment, I come into the large courtroom, I open up all the doors, turn on all the lights, and do it right there in the open courthouse. And so that day or night, when I'm in there, it's open. And it's open to anybody to come in and to view. And I have routinely made myself available for anybody after court or before court to answer any questions about the court system. I find myself in our local schools routinely doing that, and I think bringing the court system into the schools has certainly been a benefit to me, and I hope that our students have learned something as well. Tonight, for instance, at 6 o'clock, I'll be addressing approximately 15 members of the Colonie Civilian Police Academy. And they're going through a training and visiting a variety of different stations along the way through the Colonie Police Department. And tonight, the students and the participants in the Civilian Police Academy will be coming to meet with me at 6 o'clock before court, and I will give them a summary of what's going on in the courthouse and what they may see this evening. Then they will stay,
okay.
And afterwards I'll make myself available to them if they would like, as I do routinely if I know anybody's there, to answer questions about what the procedures were and if they don't understand anything. As you know, many times in any particular field, certain words take on meanings within that little environment where that folks not used to that environment might not know exactly what that word means, right, or what just happened. And so that making yourself available to answer those questions really makes the court system as friendly and as user-friendly as it can be. And I'll be doing it tonight as well.
With all these shows on, I don't watch a lot of them, but we have legal shows on everywhere and investigation shows. Are people do they know what the law now? Are they their own sort of experts on all this? Are you finding people quite humbled by the experience?
Well, I do note that there are a lot of case TV shows that are mirrored after small claims matters,
yep.
And there are a plethora of them, and those cases routinely actually start as real cases that were filed in a local court system somewhere. In fact, there are people who work for those TV shows, and they go through court files looking for cases that they think might be television ready. And of course, when that approach was first made to our court system some years ago, the reaction was, you can't look at these files, that's not for television. But the Office of Court Administration was quick to point out to the court clerk that no, everybody has the right to look at these files, apparently regardless of what they want to use them for. But nonetheless, I've had litigants come to me and say that they did get letters inviting them to participate on one of the TV shows, but they decided to actually keep their case in the Colonie court system as well. But I think what it's done to some degree is maybe give some viewers an idea about what they think court might be like.
Yep.
And you can, and some might get an idea about the court system from the television shows that might not be exactly what happens in a real court.
I was going to say, when I do watch something like this, you'll see something happen. You'll say, "No way, this is not going to happen." I mean, so whether it does or not, this couldn't possibly take place.
Right.
Rather amused by it. You talked about honor court. What is honor court?
Honor court typically has a representative in our courthouse during the course of criminal proceedings, and we often handle those on Wednesday evenings, often. And tonight will be no exception as well. And honor court provides services to certain alleged defendants where they could enjoy some treatment possibilities, or some inpatient treatment, or some residential treatment opportunities, which may work in conjunction with a court's sentence or view of a particular matter, and they've enjoyed some success in that way too. And they provide that particular service, and they often will come to the court and ask whether they could have an opportunity to provide an evaluation of someone who maybe have a criminal charge pending before the court currently, and whether the court would ever consider allowing a disposition which includes a proposed course of treatments.
Okay.
And that's what they routinely do, among other things.
Community service, I mean, is that something that would come out of honor court or no?
No, we still have some limited capacity to order a community service as part of a sentence. There was a more formal community service operation serving the county, but unfortunately it ran into funding issues, and it actually did close its doors a number of years ago. However, there are still outlets for the court, and I can think of one right offhand that has come to the court and made themselves available as a potential for community service, and that's the food bank here in Latham. And there are times, if the court finds that that's part of an appropriate sentence, to also include certain hours of community service. Of course, whoever is actually ensuring the community service has to report back to the court that the number of hours have been met. It more routinely happens now through our youth court system.
Okay.
If the court chooses to send a young person through our youth court system, as opposed to the criminal justice system, and if they are successfully discharged from youth court, it will typically include a variety of hours of community service that is monitored by the youth court personnel.
That was going to be my next question, is about the youth court. Just what is the youth court? I mean, how is it made up?
Well, the Town of Colonie Youth Court, as you may know, is one of the early youth courts in the entire country, and from my point of view has been called upon by a variety of other youth courts throughout the country, and including the federal government, to use it as a model to implement the same type of process in other courts throughout the country. And as you know, even the First Lady visited our youth court and came into our humble courtroom just last year to acknowledge to some degree, I think, the success of the Town of Colonie Youth Court and what it's done for young people. Still takes, the judge has to decide that a case is ripe for youth court.
Okay.
And there are a variety of factors which must be met first. Then the judge still has the ultimate decision on whether to direct a case to that youth court for disposition. But they have quite a program which involve, if you're sentenced to youth court, there are a variety of obligations that you have, including trying your case before your peers, and your peers act in a variety of capacities: judge, jury, defense counsel, prosecutor, and in the end, a penalty is imposed by your peers, and typically community service, and that you have to meet that obligation with a certain amount of time. I find routinely from meeting with graduates of youth court and being at their graduation ceremonies that many of the people who were first sent there then continued, not only were successfully discharged, but continue to serve in the variety of other capacities, either as judge, juror, or defense counsel themselves, because of the enlightening experience that they enjoyed as young people. These are students, or young people are involved in this particular program.
What a
And,
wonderful turnaround.
yeah.
I mean, how wonderful. Are these also open to the public if someone wanted to go to a youth court or no?
Yes. Now, mind you, I don't, the Colony Justice Court itself, while as a judge I have the authority to direct
Okay.
someone over there, I do not preside over their particular operation. However, I do know that they conduct their trials and presentations in the courtroom on Thursday nights, and I couldn't imagine why they wouldn't be open, unless there's some reason that the young people have all gotten together and decided this is something we will do and we'll have more openness if we do it together. But only the youth court could answer that question for you about whether someone could come in and visit. I do know, though, that they have been, they've provided a model for many youth courts throughout the nation, and that could only be done probably if people got to watch what they were doing.
Yeah, a lot to be proud of. We're at the end of the show, actually, so I just wanted to give you an opportunity if you think we might have missed something. We covered a lot of territory today. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity that the library has provided, and Bob, you've done a fine job bringing this type of information to our citizens. The citizens should know that that court is owned and operated by them, and I serve at their pleasure, and so do all of the judges in that capacity. I welcome anybody to come join us. I'm happy to meet with any of our citizens or citizens groups. I've done it routinely. I was with the Colony seniors just a few weeks ago at the Beltran Living Center, and I'm happy to continue to visit with our Colony residents to explain the court system and answer any particular questions many have about a variety of issues, which may be too specific right now, but still are on the minds of many different people, and I would always invite that kind of contact through the court system with me. I'd be happy to do that.
I think that's a terrific invitation. I hope people take you up on it. Thanks again, Peter.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining me on Getting to Know You. I hope you enjoyed today's show and will join us next week. Until then, have a good one.